Welcome to BizTech's C-Suite Conversation Show. Our guest for today is no stranger to BizTech. He's Jayant Paleti. He's the co-founder of Darwinbox. Darwinbox is a HR tech platform unicorn that caters to an organization's HR needs across the entire employee lifecycle. It's an innovative platform that combines highly configurable workflows, intelligent insights, and smart interfaces to help enterprises unleash the true potential of their workforce. Now, Darwinbox has been invested in by blue chip investors like Salesforce Ventures, Sequoia Capital, and Lightspeed Ventures. And most recently, Microsoft has just invested in this unicorn. Now, Darwinbox is trusted by over 650 plus global enterprises with over 1.5 million employees spread across 90 plus countries. Now, to tell us more about this unicorn, welcome to the show, Jayant.
Brian, thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Now, Jayant, Darwinbox has charted tremendous growth since you were last on BizTech Asia in January 2021. And since then, you have achieved unicorn status in early 2022. Tell us about your journey since the last time you've come on the show.
Absolutely. And since then, I think in terms of business, we've expanded to a lot more geographies. For example, in terms of geography spread now, where Darwinbox has the go-to-market motion in, Brian, we're present in Southeast Asia, all 6 countries. We have offices in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam. We have customers and colleagues in all these geographies. For example, in Singapore, we work with the likes of Semcorp, Comfort Delgro, SBS Transit. We work with 6 out of the top 10 conglomerates in Indonesia. We work with 2 out of the top 3 banks in the Philippines. So we have a great presence here. We're also present in South Asia, particularly India. Then we're present in the Middle East. We launched the operations there in 2021. So we have offices in the UAE and Saudi. We also launched the US last quarter. That's the latest region in Darwinbox that we launched. And since I think our last conversation was in January 2021, since then, a couple of other company milestones to talk about. One, in January 22, we raised our Series D from a very marquee investor from the US called TCV, Technology Crossover Ventures. And meaning TCV is on the boards of Netflix, Spotify, Airbnb, a lot of enterprise software majors that they took to the public markets. And as we go towards a listing post 2 or 3 years, we felt we could benefit from that expertise. And it is also in that was roughly an $80 million round, Brian. And that valued us north of $1 billion. That's when we became a unicorn. And in January 23, something really exciting, something that you called out also happened. Microsoft came on board with a strategic piece of investment. And what is so exciting about the Microsoft partnership, Brian, is the ability to elevate experience for our customers becomes very, very dramatic, right? And there are 3 parts to the Microsoft investment. One is the investment. The second is the deep integration across Microsoft product lines and R&D commitments that we got. So I'll give you a few examples there. For example, think Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams, 85% of our customers are on Microsoft Teams. And in the hybrid era, Teams has become a place where a lot of work happens. Now, we're going to so deeply integrate with Teams that an employer or manager that is going to use Darwinbox can complete all their activities on the HR front in their flow of work without having to leave the Teams context via Teams. Deep integrations like that. Likewise, Darwinbox's analytics layer is shifting to Microsoft's Power BI platform. Okay. We're doing deep integrations with Office 365. For example, can a manager approve everything that he has to approve from Outlook? Integrations of that format. The last is integrations with Microsoft's Dynamics platform, which is their business apps ecosystem. So they have CRM, ERP, and we are the HCM plug for them. The last, we're also partnering with them and experimenting with a lot of chat GPT use cases now. So that's
Okay.
also very, very interesting. So ensuring that a layer of AI get embedded in every interaction across every part of the life cycle. That's a collaboration area as well. So that is the second leg of the partnership. The third leg of the partnership is the go-to-market, which is in all the geographies that we are in. Microsoft is already there. With all the customers that we intend to work with, Microsoft has a touch point with. And all the governments that we want to engage with, Microsoft is there. So now how can you work with the Microsoft distribution machinery, their teams on the ground to ensure that a Darwinbox gets taken to market. So it is a very interesting strategic partnership that combines these three elements: investment plus product synergies and integration plus go-to-market.
So I want to just add one more thing, and I want to ask you about that because Microsoft also owns a very important HR platform, LinkedIn. How are you working with them as part of your second pillar?
Fantastic. So even with LinkedIn, there are integration use cases that exist. For example, can you work with LinkedIn on the recruiting front? The ability for a company to post a job directly on LinkedIn via the Darwinbox platform. The ability for a candidate to apply directly to Darwinbox. Likewise, there are collaboration possibilities on the learning front. LinkedIn's learning layer can. Likewise, there are the collaboration possibilities on the skilling front. So LinkedIn is a potential area of collaboration with the Microsoft ecosystem as well. You're absolutely bang on.
So one of the key things is, and while doing research for this, because it's been 1.5 years since we talked, was the fact that I discovered that you're the youngest Asian entrant into the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which, kudos to you guys. It's a great achievement. But again, it also reinforces what you just said, that it's not just marketing that you're good at. Literally, your product has a very solid foundation, which is what attracted Microsoft to invest in you.
That's correct. And was personally for me and a lot of people in Darwinbox a very proud moment when the Gartner recognition happened, Brian. So I think this happened in October 2021, and this is Gartner's Enterprise HCM Quadrant. And if there's a prime piece of real estate for a product company to be on, it is the Gartner MQ, right? And
absolutely,
never before has an Asian player been featured on the Gartner HCM Quadrant. We were that first Asian player ever to be featured there. It also felt good that we were the youngest, which is a product went live in 2016 mid, and this happened in 21. So within 5 years of launch, we made it to the Gartner HCM Quadrant. And for a lot of people that been with the company, came with a vision, came with an aspiration to build a leading product story from Asia for the world. I think this was an early aspiration for us. Hey, we need to get recognized by Gartner at some juncture. And it happened thanks to, I think, a lot of great feedback that our customers gave about us to Gartner. I think, and no better validation again, customers speaking for you. And that's, I think, the reason why Gartner sort of happened.
Okay, so I want to ask you this, Jayant, because again, you said it took you 5 years to get there, which is really quick, really young company. What do you think you did better than the rest that allowed you to accelerate that process?
And importantly, Brian, everything goes back to the product. And you talked about marketing, sales. I can't say whether we are good or bad at it. I think we can be far, far better at it. That much I can definitely say. But I think the reason why we did well, the reason why our story becomes compelling, our proposition becomes unique for customers, is I think it all comes down to our product and how we sort of went about building it. And importantly, Brian, maybe let me go back a bit and talk about the why of Darwinbox. Meaning, for example, why we were convinced about building a story out like this, right? And I think Simon Sinek says this, right? That every company needs to have a big why. So our big why, that insight came to us in late 2014. And this is a category of software that's been around for the last 40 years. dominated by legacy giants whose balance sheets are potentially as large as some African geographies, right? But meaning what gave us the conviction to do this was our why. And our why is you realize that a HR system is a very unique system. It's that rare piece of software that touches everybody in the company, from the CEO to the last employee on the ground. And this employee could be on the shop floor in a manufacturing plant. This employee could be on the storefront for a retail player. This guy could be a last mile employee delivering something for a logistics player. There's no other system like this in the enterprise. You take a CRM, it only touches the sales function. You take a finance system, it only touches the finance function. But a HR product is that rare piece of software that touches everyone. But what we realized before building the story out was that most software was still getting built for other people in the org. That, for example, till the 2000s, all software was built keeping the IT function in mind, because the only team that was able to put database, middleware, and application together was that function. So all software necessarily got sold to them and consequently got designed for them. With the advent of the cloud in the 2010s, you realize increasingly the function started getting involved in software purchase decisions. The HR function in the case of a HCM, the business in the case of a CRM, marketing function in the case of marketing cloud. But what we felt was always the most important stakeholder in the case of HR system was not getting a voice. And who was that stakeholder? The employee.
Now, Jayant, then what are you seeing in the HR tech landscape in the next 1 to 2 years in particular that you are going to be innovating at Darwinbox?
And it goes back to this, right? The point I made about we took that call in 2015 to build a platform that keeps the employee squarely at the middle, accounting for his experience, his empowerment, his engagement. And if that gets accounted for, everybody else in the org will be happy. The HR will be happy, the IT will be happy, the CEO will be, the board will be happy. And that became our big why, Brian. And I believe that if you continue focusing on that this employee becomes the center for a company and you account for his happiness, I think that's a proposition that will be true 5 years later, 10 years later, or 20 years later, right? But in terms of some of the things, one thing that you called out, right? The next 2 years, what I see in the HR tech landscape is a lot of companies are looking for a lot of agility, right? Okay. Maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, your processes did not change this frequently. Sometimes, but now the rate of change has become so rapid. Sometimes the goals that you set at the start of the year become irrelevant by mid-year. And if anything proved that point, look at the pandemic. Yes. Right? When the pandemic happened, policies that were the same for the last 10 years had to be changed in the span of a day. So companies are now looking for systems that are far more agile. That a system changes as per my evolving context. Right. So companies want software that evolves with them rather than holding them back. So I think that is one thing that they're looking for in all software, agility.
Okay.
The second thing that is being looked at is something that I called out, which is the employee experience element. Right. In the past, maybe in all the countries that we talked about just now, say 20 years ago, right, all the large conglomerates, all the large banks were the natural destinations for talent. It was an employer's market. But now it is an employee market. And an employee, he has choice in terms of choosing, say, any number of companies. So now each company is coming back to the table to define what its employee value proposition is. Right? Why should anybody come and join me? Everybody is relooking at that. And one of the elements there is, hey, how can I provide the best possible digital experience for an employee? Because an employee in his personal life is used to the most used to great applications. He expects something similar in the workplace. Why should there be a difference?
Absolutely. Expectations of individual employees have gone up dramatically.
Yes. And so a lot of focus for companies on how do I account for engaging them? How do I account for their growth? How do I ensure that they feel good about the company's vision and values? How do I ensure that I'm communicating well with them? And ensuring that they don't leave, right? All these things. And you realize that in the past, especially in Asia, for every 100 to 200 people that you add, you needed to add a HR guy. That's not the case. That's not the case anymore, right?
Yeah.
Now companies are saying that with the same head count, how can you manage more and more scale? And the only way to do that is through technology. There's no other way.
Yes.
The only way to manage anything at scale or drive impact at scale is through technology. And that realization has sort of come through. And which is why the investment into digitizing the function.
Now, Jayant, it's been a fascinating conversation. I've really learned a lot and got updated in terms of some key trends and also all the good stuff that's happened with Darwinbox. But before we leave, Jayant, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think I've always believed in the Asian story, right? And that is something that you called out in the beginning, Brian, that this century is going to be Asia century. That's my strong belief, right? And while Asia has given the world a lot of great brands, not a lot of great brands that we've given the world on the tech front, on the product front. And I think our aspiration is to build a great product story from Asia for the world. I think Asia has a lot to offer the world in this century, and our aspiration is to build one of those stories. Asia, I know, can offer a lot more stories, but we want to build one such story, and that's what we're doing from here.
Fantastic. And I wish you the best of luck moving forward as well. You've got the firm foundation to go from unicorn status to decacorn status. And I wish you all the best, JN. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Brian, for having me.
We've been speaking to Jayant Paleti. He's the co-founder of Darwinbox. I'm Brian Fernandez, and you've been watching and listening to BizTech's C-Suite Conversation Show. This interview will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our social media platforms. It'll also be on our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.